You don't need another Christian podcast. You don't need another sermon. You don't need another person's opinion on whatever it is that's going on in the world. You might actually need to start doing less, because the thing that we call productive, being responsible, learning, might actually be hiding something. See, the thing is that we find a channel and we binge it. We find a blog and also it feels like this person has what we need. And so we read all their content, or we keep on scrolling and letting whatever comes up on our Facebook feed be what feeds us. And it can feel responsible, or maybe we're totally aware that it's not really an ideal habit, but we stay in it because the thing is that the silence is uncomfortable. At least if you're like me, anytime that I would try to change things, or, like someone would, whoever I'm talking with would leave the room, and instead of just being okay with the silence. So the problem is that my first thought was, I'm failing God. I didn't do enough today. I didn't do enough this week. I didn't do enough this month. I haven't done enough in my lifetime yet. And I can't figure this out. And I'm just failing him. And so instead of talking to God about it, my first thought would be, where's my phone? I've just got to, I'm going to quickly just look this thing up, and then I'll be good. That's always the thought and the progression. But the real shift didn't happen so much when I recognized this. It was when I actually removed the noise. And so I did something a little bit extreme, and I'm not here to tell you what God is telling you to do, because what I don't want to do is, I know some of us are very prone to feeling wrong about everything we're doing, and where we're very prone to feeling guilty about what we're doing. And so sometimes, if I'm here saying you need to be doing less, and then I'm going to share with you what I did to do less, then you might actually end up removing something from your life that you need to be focused on. So as you watch through this video, or don't watch through this video, I really want you to hear that I'm inviting you to ask God to show you in your unique life, on your unique journey with him, as you are walking this life with Jesus, whether it's you've been walking with him for a couple days, months, years, decades, that you are paying attention to how he's leading you, not yet just another opinion, including mine, about what you should be doing more or less of. And yet, so I'm talking about the angle, or from the angle of doing less, because our world is so driven by doing more and being engaged more. And then we're told that, if you're engaging in all this stuff and paying attention to all these things and always learning, that you're doing a good job. Like, that's kind of what either that, or we just stay hyper engaged because it makes us feel like, well, or maybe it's that we are hiding something because we're trying to avoid the silence because we don't know how to handle these things that we're actually struggling with. And so when we're doing less, we're taking that, and it could be less like where you are simply going from, maybe you, instead of picking up your phone as soon as you wake up, you're like, no phone until after breakfast, right? It might just be giving yourself a little bit of a boundary and a window, just to allow yourself a little bit of this time where you're not going to run to something else, or run to distractions, run to busyness. Instead, you're going to use that time just to talk to God, knowing that it will probably be uncomfortable, and you're terrified of what it is that you are facing within yourself, in like just this feeling that you're failing him. Or, I mean, that's what I had to face, but you're going to have to face something different. But when we read the Bible, there is just like this thread of an invitation to sit at Jesus's feet, to engage with him, to move slow, to do less, to be with the one being, and that could be an audience of one where you're sitting before Jesus alone. It could be engaging with the one that he has put in front of you, the one that he's shown you. It's doing those small things, and that does not feel comfortable. It doesn't feel productive. It doesn't feel right. And yet, I think to some extent we're all kind of aware that that in a way it's like God's kind of a slow God. And it can be annoying because it's like I want to fast track this, or it doesn't feel like it's enough. And it's this backwards wisdom. And so with doing less, it might not be okay. So what I did when I realized that I don't know how to be alone with God, which was weird because I'm like, I would get up and I read my Bible and I'm journaling. And so I have this alone time. But even in that, I knew how to not really engage with him. Or it was kind of like throughout the rest of the day, I didn't know how to just stop and be still, and where I'm always trying to do more. I'm trying to do enough for him, not realizing that I need to learn to rest in him. And so for the month of March, I said, I'm just doing like a fast from pretty much just from YouTube, because I would find a channel that I like and then I would watch a whole bunch of their videos, and it was almost from the time that I woke up to I would just have it on in the background, right? And so I could say, well, you know what I do? I have it on while I'm doing chores, and it just helps me, and it does help me, and that's true. The problem was that was always where my mind was going, and I was always like, I needed this constant distraction, and it became an addiction and a habit, and it had to stop. And so I did less by doing something more extreme. And it was just, it's like, we'll still watch things. It was just this, I'm not going to constantly have my phone on, or I'm not going to use YouTube on my phone in that way. And it really shifted a lot of things. At first I was like, I just struggled to do chores. I struggled to kind of like be motivated to do anything because I didn't have this like companion that I was used to. But it also has shifted hugely the way that I was interacting with God, or the way that I was interacting with my boys, and the way that I was able to just really engage with the things that I wanted to engage with. And I also have a bunch of just boring time where I don't know what to do with myself, or with my thoughts. And it's like, oh, the day's too long sometimes. But that's the thing that I've chosen, where I've removed this distraction so that I could sit with that. Because until you learn to sit in that emptiness, that's like, there is no rushing into God's presence, or rushing into to really connecting and engaging with him. And it's, I mean, like, unless someone else has figured something else out. But I think sometimes what I want to challenge you to engage with, or to ask yourself is, or just to identify or acknowledge or something, is that even when, like, like I could be reading my Bible, and let's say I'm the best Bible reader in the world, right? I go through it however many times a year, and I'm engaging, and I'm connecting the dots, and I'm seeing all these different things. That doesn't mean I'm walking with God. Like, that doesn't mean I'm engaging with him. And so we can do many Christian things, many good things, many things that help many people, and still not be honest with God in the secret place, in letting our heart be exposed before him, in letting him renew our minds, and letting him challenge who we are, and the way that we carry ourselves. And that's a very scary place to be, because it is very possible for someone to say and do all the right things, but never be quiet with God. And so I guess my invitation is to just invite you to do less of something, to give yourself a little bit of room. And that might only be 5 minutes, because that might be all you can handle. Or it might be doing something more cold turkey, like what I did, with just like going from listening to hours of people talking to totally removing that out for a month. And even beyond a month, I'm going to make sure that I have safeguards around that, because I don't want to keep falling into that trap. But there's something about doing less, and about creating space, and letting ourselves just be really uncomfortable in that space until we learn. It's sort of saying, I'm going to do nothing until I learn to do the right thing. And it's in that silence that we're allowing ourselves to really come face to face with, like, I'll spend hours of listening to stuff, or well, not so much reading for me, but like just where I'm always listening to something. And that can feel responsible, right? Even though sometimes when I look at that, I'm like, I like watching YouTubers who talk. I don't watch TikTok, but I like watching YouTubers who talk about the crazy things on TikTok. I'm like, that has nothing to do with being responsible or being aware of what's going on in the world. But it's like it just makes me feel like I'm doing something. And so when I remove that, I actually have to like deal with this is like a habit to cover up an insecurity. And so when that's removed, I have to actually say, Jesus, what do you care about? Like, what do you want Christians doing? And not just Christians, what do you want me as I'm following you to do? Because this is not about saying, okay, I'm going to do less and now I'm going to start criticizing everyone else who's doing more, or I'm going to do less of this thing and now this is what everybody should be doing. It's just you honing in on your walk with God and making a choice there. And so it might be something like maybe you are feeling very and have been feeling very convicted about changing the way that you've been managing your time and your emotions and your like brain. And so it's just taking that seriously, right? And so you might feel convicted to do something specific, or maybe it's just something where you're like, you know what, this is a choice I'm going to make, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to remove. And it could be for like as far just kind of until something changes, or it could be for a small pocket of time. But you're within that space where we're saying like, I'm choosing to go into this place of emptiness with God and to ask the question, to bring to the table what I have felt was so important, and like the things that I've been doing, thinking I'm like being a responsible Christian, and I'm putting that on the table before him and saying, like, I need you to tell me what you think about this. And I want, there's a trade-off where we're giving to God what we have, the habits that we have had, and the ways that we have comforted ourselves, and just like the things that we do without even realizing that we're doing it. And sometimes it's to cover up an insecurity or a wound, or it's just like it's just the thing that we've done. And so we're laying that on the table and giving that to him and asking him to show us, not just to like give our thing up, but that we're actually asking him and actively engaging with, what do you want me to do? And for a time, that might just be learning to be silent. That might just be learning to read the Bible and just learning to engage with it. It might just be learning to sit in that silence and say, this is really uncomfortable. And the next time this is still really uncomfortable. But not running, where we're choosing to not run away from that. And doing less is a choice to say, I'm going to do less of this so that I can actually engage my heart. Because sometimes I think we're always looking for something, right? We're looking for like, what's the next devotional I should do? Or the next, we're always trying to engage more, hoping that gets our hearts into gear, when God's way is so much slower. And it's so much just like, go and sit with him without needing something from that experience, or needing like some like, wow, this was so powerful. It's just learn to sit with him, learn to gaze, learn to be, learn to listen, learn to be imperfect in that space. And lastly, I just want to say that in doing this is not, like, I'm not saying to do, it's sort of like, what are those things that I'm running to? And when I want to be running to God, what are those other things that I'm running to? That's what I'm encouraging you to put on the table and start looking at that with a critical eye. But at the same time, like, so while I was doing this over this month, because making these videos is a huge thing for me, and this is the work that I want to be doing more. So it's that I want to engage with God in the silence, and I want to engage with him well. And I'm also wanting to intentionally do these videos, do my kingdom work. And so if you have something that is on your heart that you want to be doing, there's like, when I say less, I think sometimes we feel like everything has to be cleared out of the picture. And if there is a time for that, and that's what God is leading you to do, then do that. But also learn to see the difference. Like, what are the things that are actually keeping you stuck that you need to put on the table and let go of, versus the things that you're actually needing to engage in and engage in well. Because I think sometimes we just get stuck in this like consuming and looking for ideas and trying to solve things, but we're not actually taking the action that we need to be in order to build a life that revolves around our values in that we have taken on as followers of Jesus. And so if there is something that is on your heart that you have been wanting to prioritize and you want help with that, then grab the On Purpose Planner in the description below this video. And lastly, remember to read your Bible, get lost in the story of God, and play your part. And I will talk to you soon.